Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Logical Nonsense Podcast, the first ever NFL mock draft 2024. We've come prepared. We've watched our film. I don't even want to know how many hours of YouTube. My suggestions on YouTube is all draft stuff right now. You guys have ruined my algorithm for this damn podcast. I'll be putting in way too much time. I'm excited. I'm jacked up. Dodge, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great, Hunter. How about you? Jacked up,
NFL
I guess.
draft is one of my favorite things of the year. I can't even explain it. Since a little boy, man, NFL draft is just an exciting time to see what new players are going to come in, who you think are. I mean, looking back at the old drafts, I remember as a kid looking at the AJ Green and Julio Jones highlight tapes, as well as Patrick Peterson's. And god damn, I just remember thinking, wow, they're going to be great. And you know what? They were. So I love it when you can see the future. And, there's also been some not so great picks in the first round. So shout out Jamarcus Russell. All right.
I was gonna say
So,
Josh Rosen.
ooh, 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 more recent one. I like it. All right. So, how this is going to work? We have our NFL mock draft database simulator. We're going to be going through, starting, pausing, talking about our picks. Dodge, we will start with you. And here we go with the number one pick, the Chicago Bears. Talk us through it. You are on the clock.
I thought about this one a long time, right?
I think a lot
Do
of
the
have.
Bears keep Justin Fields?
Yep.
And I think I started this offseason thinking, yes, they do. And they trade that first round pick because they got another draft pick pretty much coming up, right?
Yep.
I've thrown that out of the tank.
I have.
They draft Caleb Williams, the best draft pick prospect in a while. And I mean, he's been so weighted on. And what made me make this decision was that I look at Fields' floor and I
Yeah.
look at Caleb Williams' floor. And I say, is Caleb Williams going to be worse than Justin Fields?
It's a good question.
I don't think so. I
I
don't
don't
think
think
he's going
so
to be
either.
worse. So, and I think his ceiling is higher and he's
Ceiling is
younger.
definitely higher. I'll get to it as well, but I agree. I'll let you talk.
So, yes, my first pick in the draft for the Bears is they draft Caleb Williams, they trade Justin Fields, get a later draft pick
Ooh,
to
who
someone that needs a team,
are you
someone
gonna
that needs a
reveal that
quarterback.
right now or no?
I'm not going to reveal that right now.
Okay, because I'm gonna
It
reveal mine
is
in a second. But
okay.
all right, here we
To me, it's
go.
not happening. They're not getting a first round draft pick back, right? I think they're getting a third, maybe fourth rounder.
So going to my first round draft pick, gotta start my draft. I also have Caleb Williams. Very similar mindset to you. I think you posed it very well. Justin Williams, Justin Fields floor and Caleb Williams' floor. I think Caleb Williams, at worst, is what Justin Fields is right now. And I think Caleb Williams' ceiling is very great. It's very high. We've seen the athletic throws. We know what he's capable of. As a prospect, a raw prospect, he's incredible. I mean, you look at the highlights and you have some awestruck plays, right? And everyone's, he's a very highly talented quarterback. My biggest question with Caleb Williams, and the thing I think he needs to adjust going into the NFL, is not every play has to be a hero play. I think sometimes he forces things too much and he wants them to be big plays when they don't need to be. You'll see a lot of times when shorter routes or, quick reads, sometimes he hesitates a little bit, and sometimes he, makes, I wouldn't say like the worst move, but that's concerning to me. And the other concerning thing that I wrote down here is I want to say he's had 17 fumbles in his career in college, which is something that needs to improve. We know that fumbles are something that people usually struggle with for most of their career, so I'd like to see that improve. But those are the cons. His upside is tremendous. We all know that. Like I said, the arm's incredible. He is I hate draft comps, and this is probably the only one I'm going to say, but I think, some people are throwing around Patrick Mahomes. I think he is more like Josh Allen in the sense that he can be a hero or zero. Um, and I think Caleb Williams is very comparable to that at his ceiling for sure.
If I could say one more thing about
Of
Caleb
course.
Williams, since we
Yep.
both have that pick, I think when we're looking at draft comps, and like you said, we probably might shy away from that for the rest.
Yeah.
I do think his comps at his high upside are Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers. Just
Yeah.
the style of play is
Yeah.
what I see. However, to me, that's also could be the problem. You know, will his scrambling ability be good enough to translate to the NFL?
Yeah.
That is the one thing that I'm a little scared about with Caleb Williams is that look, he's good enough to get away from college guys, but is he good enough to get away from the NFL guys?
Yeah.
And that sometimes is a hard thing to tell.
Definitely. Most definitely. I mean, and that's I think that's a question with a lot of these quarterbacks in this draft class. But we'll get to that because we've got number 2 pick for you, Washington Commanders. What are they doing with this pick?
Dun, da, da, dun, da, da. This is my first trade.
Ooh, we got a trade. Let's
Yeah.
look at the trades. What do we got
And
here?
they're going to trade it to the Falcons, who really want their guy.
Ooh, Atlanta. Oh, remind me to talk about Atlanta later.
Okay.
Okay. What are they giving up? Like, does it matter? Are they getting the 8th
No,
pick?
they're gonna
Okay.
trade. They're gonna swap draft picks. They're probably gonna get another draft pick next year.
Okay.
You know?
I'm just putting this in place for now, just so it'll
Yeah.
accept. Okay. Atlanta's at 2 now. What does Atlanta
So
do?
Atlanta really wants this quarterback, I think, and his name is Jayden Daniels,
Jayden Daniels to Atlanta Falcons. I like it.
the Heisman winner. And I think personally, I have Jayden Daniels ranked as the second best quarterback
I
in
also
this
do.
draft. I think he's been really quite good, even when he was at Arizona State,
Yeah.
and kind of underrated there. And then at LSU, people look at Joe Burrow, obviously coming from LSU, but Joe Burrow had more talent there than
Yeah.
Jane Daniels did. And so I think, honestly, really the impressive season that he had, especially in the SEC,
Yep.
I think the Falcons, they're a quarterback away and they see this guy as their franchise. And that's why I have them trading up to the second draft pick because they're afraid that it's possible the Commanders take it. And I think the Commanders are looking for someone different than
Yeah.
Jane Daniels. And
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
that's why they make the trade.
All right. I like it. So going to my draft pick, I have the Commanders taking in Jayden Daniels. Few things I want
Ooh.
to point out here. I think while I don't necessarily know if moving away from Hal this soon is the right move, I am not the Washington Commanders. Commanders, in my opinion, don't always make the best moves. I think Jayden Daniels is enough of a mix up from Drake May. Dodge, I know you and I talked a little bit offline. I think Drake May, in terms of play style, is very similar to Jayden Daniels. And I think from a Washington Commanders perspective, with a new coach coming in with, I believe, Dan Quinn, correct?
Yep.
Dan Quinn, he's worked with Matt Ryan and he's also worked with just recently, I know he was on the defensive side of the ball, but he was with Dak. He just came from a more mobile style quarterback. I think Jayden Daniels could translate well into a Dan Quinn system. I'm not sure who the offensive coordinator is right now over there, but I think Jayden Daniels, a lot of people are comping him to Lamar Jackson. I don't think that's right personally. Lamar Jackson never put up 5,000 passing yards in a season. Um, you know, Jayden Daniels is a much better passer in my opinion than Lamar. I think Jayden Daniels, I also have him as my number 2. I mean, he's continued to improve. Throughout college, he's continued to improve. He continues getting better at reading. I think he has great patience in the pocket, but he can move when he needs to. He can get out of the pocket and he can beat people with his feet and be athletic. I think his biggest con is he doesn't have a rocket arm, right? He doesn't have like one of those arms that's gonna wow you, but he gets it done. He puts balls where they need to be. He has good timing. I think he's I think he's pro ready.
It's his athleticism that really shoots him up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, he's the definition of a dual threat quarterback. So
Do you have any worries about him?
yeah, I mean, he doesn't have a rocket arm.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, that could worry. I also think at times he didn't progress through his read as much as I would like to him to. I saw him, first read he sees throwing it there, which is fine, especially in college. I think sometimes we overanalyze that aspect. College, while I don't want to like discredit the defenses at the SEC level, especially, I do think there is something to be said about sometimes the first read is the right read in college, especially. And so I think we do overanalyze that a little bit.
Yeah. I
What are
think
what are your cons on him?
my one con is that it could be an Anthony Richardson type situation with injuries.
Okay.
He's gotta learn to get down. I think he's a lot better prospect than Anthony Richardson. I think
Yep.
he's faster. I think he throws the ball better. So I don't wanna comp him to Anthony Richardson. The one
Yeah.
thing is that, looking at Anthony Richardson's season, I think we need to get Jayden Daniels protected when he runs the football.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, moving back to your draft. We've got New England at number 3. What do you got with New England?
And I've got New England possibly taking the best player in this draft, Marvin Harrison Jr.,
Ooh. So that means
because
you're staying with Mac Jones at the QB.
I don't think they're staying with Mac Jones. I think this is an option where you see either Justin Fields might go to.
Yep.
I think this is a possibility where you might see a free agent quarterback come in or
Okay.
someone who's going to be a free agent quarterback. Um, Jacoby Brissett rings bells for me. Obviously,
Yeah. Been there
reuniting
before,
with
yeah.
the Patriots, right?
Yep.
And I think he deserved to start last year. I think he proved that with his one game. Obviously, it was only one game, but Brissett is good enough to get teams wins. He's honestly good enough to probably take a playoff team to playoffs. I don't think the Patriots are quite ready for that, but with Marvin Harrison Jr. and with an addition like Jacoby Brissett, we're talking about a much better team than they were last season, especially on offense.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. It's
I guess some other
interesting.
stuff on Marvin Harrison. He's probably the best wide receiver prospect we've had in years.
Yeah. I think
And
he's the best prospect we've had. I mentioned Julio Jones and AJ Green, which were very, very highly
yeah,
rated. I think he's probably the best since them.
I could see it. I mean, when's the last time we had someone with the ball skills that Marvin Harrison has, Marvin Harrison Jr., and the
Crazy.
athleticism?
Mhm. Route
This,
running too.
route running underrated.
Yep,
So
absolutely. I would have loved to put Marvin Harrison at number 3, but I don't think the Patriots are gonna be that smart. I think they're gonna go out and get a guy by the name of Drake May, who I don't think they should pick, but I do see them doing. That was the tough part about making this draft list, is there's a lot of moves I personally would not make, but I think these teams will make. I think Drake May fits into the pro style quarterback that the New England Patriots are kind of known for. Drake May, obviously very talented arm. When he throws the ball and he throws a good deep ball, it's effortless for him. I think that's great about him. Um, I do think he could struggle for a few years if you don't give him time. I see him having a very similar trajectory to Sam Howell. Sometimes he's a little hesitant and can hold on to the ball a little too long. I think his ball placement is slightly overrated. There's some throws that, I've been watching film a lot on YouTube, and they're like, "Oh, that's great, great placement. That's great." If you watch the film a little bit harder, his receivers do adjust a little bit more than the perfect ball that they're talking about, you know? So, I do think the arm talent's there. I think he has the athletic ability, um, but I would like to see how much he grows, how he translates into the NFL. We talked about the last 2 guys being in playing against defenses. I mean, Jayden Daniels played against SEC defense. You know, Caleb Williams is kind of a different story, I guess. But Drake May, ACC defenses, which aren't as high as an SEC defense, which I
Definitely
think
not.
could be a knock, right? We haven't seen his reads against those higher level defenses, and we'll see how that translates. So those are my cons on him. You can either talk about him right now or you can talk about him when you draft him.
I'll talk about him when I draft him.
Okay. What do you think about that pick real quick before we move on?
Uh,
Did you
you
see
know,
it?
I could see it. It was one of my options listed. However, I think Marvin Harrison Jr. pick. I just don't think that the Patriots can let such a talented person slip. You
Yeah.
know, and honestly, he's kind of slipped in mine. I feel
Yeah.
like already to the third pick. You know, like
Yeah. Yeah.
if I'm rating them, he's probably number one on my list. Like
For
in
prospects.
yes, in this draft.
Okay. Okay.
And so
Like that.
I just can't see them moving. I can't see him moving to number 4.
Okay. All right, let's go to your draft. Now, number 4 pick, we've got Arizona Cardinals. Who are Cardinals going and grabbing the number 4 pick?
So I think they want a receiver,
Yep,
right? They have a lot of depth, but they don't have a lot of stars at receiver, I feel like.
I agree. We going
And
neighbors or we going to Dunze?
I think they're going to choose, in my opinion, the wrong one. And they're going to choose Malik Neighbors.
Ooh, the wrong one, he says. All right. Why is it
Yes.
wrong, Dodge?
I think Romo Dunze is honestly just a better receiver than Malik Neighbors. I think
This will
uh
get interesting when I have my take.
I think Rome Odunze, he makes a lot of catches that are quite contested when Penix threw the ball.
Mhm.
I think Jayden Daniels is a better quarterback, Michael
Penix.
Penix. Yeah, and so Odunze had to deal with maybe sometimes Penix's faults while Neighbors didn't necessarily have to deal with that. I also think when you look at Brian Thomas Jr., number two wide receiver for
Yep.
LSU, comparative to McMillan or Polk, I think he's a little bit better than them, right?
Yeah.
So I just think Odunze had to do a little bit more to carry that team. And I also think he was underutilized when it came to that national championship game.
Yeah.
Um, because if you remember, I talked about UW should be feeding him the ball.
Yeah.
I honestly think he's a really good talent. Um, but to go more on to Neighbors, I don't want to talk down Neighbors. Obviously, he's a very talented receiver,
Yeah.
very athletic, and I think he will help this Arizona offense. I think that's why they make that choice. And I just, why do I think that Arizona will choose Neighbors over Dunze? I think it has to do with a little bit, probably more hype, maybe a little bit more athletic ability.
Yeah. Neighbors
Um,
Neighbors is athletic
yeah.
specimen. I mean, yeah. I'll get to it
So
more. But yeah,
yeah, that's why I think they choose Neighbors is maybe there's a little more eye popping stuff
definitely.
than Odunze.
Definitely. All right, going to my number 4. I'm going to select, I think this one's pretty obvious here, the best prospect on the board. Makes most sense. Kyler Murray is literally jizzing in his pants when he sees this. Marvin Harrison Jr., probably one of the best wide receiver prospects we've seen in a long time. We talked about it. His catch radius, absolutely incredible. I think if you're putting the ball up to him, he's gonna come down with it. He finds ways to get open, even when he's double teamed. He finds ways to get open. He's creative in his route running. He's by far, in my opinion, the best route runner in this class. And to have that down going into the NFL is huge because having a huge route repertoire is so far ahead of the game. A lot of these guys and the receivers that are going the first round, aren't the best route runners. They're honestly very big, deep route runners. They're deep threats and, you know, are able to do that because they're super athletic guys. So for him to have the route running, to have the size, you know, and also just be explosive out of breaks and just, I mean, I could talk on and on about this guy. God, I'm getting all frustrated. I mean, he's just it's not a 50-50 ball with him. It's a 90-10 ball with him. So, yeah, I got Harrison at number 4. I think not much more needs to be said.
What are we thinking for him with Kyler Murray? Are you thinking a 1,000-yard season there?
I think if Marvin Harrison is able to, I don't want to put bad juju on him, but if he is able to stay healthy, I think he could be a contender for rookie of the year.
Okay, I could see it.
Going to back to your draft, LA Chargers, they've got some big decisions to make now at number 5. Who you got them?
All right, so obviously the Chargers don't need a quarterback. They have Herbert, right?
Yep.
And obviously I think what plays large in this draft pick is the addition of the new head coach,
Yeah,
Harbaugh.
I agree.
And I think he chooses Brock Bowers, tight
Yeah.
end.
Yep.
And the reason why I think he chooses Brock Bowers is because he's not only a receiving threat, but also helps you in the run game.
Yeah.
And he's a super young, talented guy that that you can almost call this type of tight end a dual threat tight end, right?
He is. He's like a Debo Samuel of tight ends.
Exactly. And so, that's why I think he could be really helpful to the Chargers.
Yeah.
Obviously they have a good receiving core already, and yet they don't have that tight end yet. And I just see this pick really working well with Harbaugh. I see this pick working well with Herbert.
Yeah.
Um, I think he could be in contention for a rookie of the year. Because obviously I have Marvin Harrison going to the Patriots instead of the Cardinals.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to be up there for rookie of the year too.
Yeah, I agree. Like, literally, I agree because I also think the Chargers are gonna go out and get Brock Bowers. I think, on top of everything you just said, he's a receiver threat. Like, his film is crazy. Like, I didn't realize how good this guy was. Obviously, I've heard some rumors about he's maybe one of the best prospects in this draft, but until you actually watch the film and what he's able to do on a field and, I threw out Debo Samuel, another guy that comes to mind. Obviously, I think better in ways. He's kind of like a Taysom Hill for the New Orleans Saints in the way that he plays tight end, how he's able to receive, how he's able to run. I think this guy is an athletic specimen in many ways, and a lot of people have concerns with his run blocking. I think he does a fine job. Obviously he's not he's not known for his blocking, right? But I think
Yeah.
he does a fine job. He's not as big as your typical tight end, which could be a disadvantage to him. But I think John Harbaugh is smart enough to utilize him when he can. They still have Gerald Everett there too, who can help out. Maybe go get a blocking tight end of some sort in free agency. I think this is also one of those moves. Harbaugh just got there. He wants to make some home run moves. This is a home run move. He doesn't want to make it safe, right? He doesn't want to go out and get an O lineman. Well, I could see him getting an O lineman, but I think Brock Bowers is the right move for him. I think he is seeing love eyes when he sees Brock Bowers.
I also want to mention, like, on Brock Bowers' run blocking,
Yeah.
I think it's average. I don't think it's like bad, you know.
That's what I'm saying. Some people were
And
saying it's terrible.
and honestly, I think like if there's one thing Harbaugh's gonna drill into this kid,
Yes.
it's going to be run blocking.
Yes.
So I think he sees him as a developmental run blocker and already a
Absolutely.
studded receiving talent. So yeah, I
Absolutely.
completely agree.
Absolutely. All right, going to your number 6 pick. I have a feeling I know where you're going with this, but New York Giants, who are they picking?
All right. So the Giants have some quarterback controversy already. and they already spent a ton of money on Daniel Jones. So that's why I'm going Rome Odunze.
Ooh. Okay. Break it down.
And look, the thing that the Giants have not had is any top receiving talent. All the Giants wide receivers are pretty okay. You know,
Yeah.
Sterling Shepard, Wandale Robinson, they're all pretty solid. Darius Slayton, I mean, the list continues for that group.
Yep.
But what they need is an absolute stud.
Yeah.
And after they spent what was it, 40 million on Daniel Jones,
Yeah.
they can't afford not to take a chance to continue the chance they've already taken on him, right? So that's why I don't think they go quarterback. I think Daniel Jones had a bad year. I'm not looking forward to next year for Daniel Jones, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I think maybe they made the wrong move last season, and maybe I overhyped him myself. But I think the addition of Rome Odunze will certainly help Daniel Jones. I think it'll certainly help this offense, which desperately needs some receiving threats that are just beyond, someone that can take away a number one receiver or a number one corner so that the number one corner isn't always guarding one of these just, yeah, they're decent, but they're not number one receivers.
Definitely.
So, and I think Odunze's super talented. Uh, I don't know what else to say about Odunze. I kind of already talked about him in earlier, but I do think he's the second best wide receiver in this draft.
Mm.
And normally I would say he would be the best receiver in the draft, if not for Marvin Harrison.
Interesting. Okay. I like it. All right, going to my New York Giants pick. I have them picking Malik Neighbors. I think the last time the Giants picked an LSU player, they got Odell Beckham Jr. and it worked out pretty damn well for them. I think they'll see that connection. A lot of people, you know, are really high on LSU receivers, and reasonably so. You look at Jamar Chase, you look at Justin Jefferson, you look at Odell Beckham. There's some really, really good talent coming from that college right now. I think they aren't going to shy away from it. Neighbors has incredible yards after catch. His ability in the open field is among the best. He's very creative in open field, making guys miss. His speed is top notch, super athletic. I think he's one of those raw athletic guys. Get him the ball and he will find ways to score. Very, very dangerous, super shifty. What he can improve on, I think he's not the best route runner. I definitely think he can improve on that. That's not saying he's a bad route runner. I think he's very average when it comes to route running. Like you said, he had Jayden Daniels at his quarterback. Obviously, he went number 2. I think Jayden Daniels did a very good job of getting the ball in his hands. And that's where we were able to see him work. The one thing I will say about this, though, Neighbors had every SEC number 1 cornerback against him, and he was still able to perform at the top level, and that's why I like this prospect a lot. I think he's going to be able to translate very well in the NFL. I do think there's areas of improvement, but I think in year 2 or 3, we could be talking about this guy as one of the best receivers in the younger generation. So,
My one question is, do you think other past LSU receivers, we talk about Justin Jefferson, Jamar
yeah.
Chase, how did you think of their route running coming in?
You know, I'll be honest, I've never studied a draft as much as I have now, and I didn't see their route running going into the
Okay.
draft. Did
Going
you
into
find their route running great beforehand?
I personally did not. So I think that might be a trade of LSU receivers that they're super athletic, super
Yeah,
ball skilled, and honestly that plays well for, whoever drafts him and goes
yeah,
against kind of what I was saying.
yeah,
That maybe the route running will come, you know.
yep, absolutely. Okay, so going back to your draft, we got the Tennessee Titans on the clock. Where are you going with the Tennessee Titans? Kind of a weird team right now.
Yeah, this one was interesting because it is kind of a weird spot, weird pick, but I think I'm going to go pretty conservative here, and they're going to help their young quarterback. and they're going to get Joe Alt, Notre Dame
Yeah.
offensive tackle. I think Notre Dame offensive linemen have been good for years. Obviously,
Mhm.
Joe Alt is good. He's one of the top rated offensive tackles in this draft. And I think they're going to go try and help out Will Levis at quarterback, getting him more protection. I also think something that Tennessee has struggled with is not only protection, but also run blocking. And that's why we've seen kind of a Derrick Henry
Yeah.
not as dominant as he used to be, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, he's gotten older, but I also think it's been the combination of the run blocking as well.
Yeah.
And that's why I think they go out and get an offensive tackle right here in Joe Alt.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, Joe Alt, I think, is the best run blocker tackle in this draft, and that's why I also have them getting Joe Alt. I don't think Derrick Henry is going to stay, but I do think Tajay Spears is somebody they want to build around, and I think Joe Alt is the perfect running tackle to go and get. Looking at his ability to run block, I think it's the best in the draft among tackles. His size is incredible, 6'8". That's insane.
Long
Um,
arms.
he has super long arms. I think he can prove I'm not saying he's a bad pass blocker, but I do think he could improve his anchor just tad bit. At times it feels like the little jolted at the line of scrimmage. He recovers well, but I think he's going to translate very, very well in this Tennessee offense. He's a great fit for this team. So, yeah. Going back to yours, now up is the Washington Commanders.
All right. And this is where I take the quarterback that the Commanders wanted all along, Drake May.
Ooh.
And so I think they do take Drake May and they trade Sam Howell. I think personally, I wouldn't have made this trade. I would have drafted Jayden Daniels with the second pick if I were them and traded Sam Howell anyway. And don't get me wrong, I think Sam Howell still has potential. And I think people will be willing to trade a fifth rounder for him. I think he will end up on a team that will think of him as at least a possible future for Sam Howell. But I think with Dan Quinn being a defensive guy, I think he wants a quarterback that maybe seems more pro ready, more like a traditional pro quarterback, right? And so that's where I see Drake May fitting in with the Commanders here is that he is more of a traditional quarterback. He's got a stellar arm. You know, his running ability, it's not good, but it's not bad. It's
Yeah.
just good enough in college. I don't think it'll be good enough in the NFL to get away. And I would say the comp here for me when I was watching is maybe a little bit less athletic Jordan Love.
Okay.
Um, just obviously has the arm talent and he looks like a quarterback made for the NFL. He looks a little bit maybe another comp that I might see is like Big Ben, an updated Big Ben, if
Okay.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, he's obviously he's a very big person. I didn't realize
No,
his
he
height
is.
until I saw it. Um, but I do think he's got the arm talent to be in the NFL, and I think this just makes sense, especially with the receiving core. I think he could have a decent season, just
Yeah.
as long as he. I think Sam Howell could have had a good season too here as well, as long as he doesn't get into the Sam Howell like underconfidence. Like when things start going wrong,
Yeah.
it seemed
Yep.
like Sam Howell would lose confidence and start throwing picks. As long as he maintains that high level, I think he'll do fine.
Okay. I like it. All right. Going back to my draft, I've got Atlanta at 8. I think we have my first trade. We've got Atlanta trading with the Chicago Bears.
Ooh.
Chicago trades up to get the guy they want, and Atlanta trades down to get the guy they want. And Atlanta trades down to get the guy they want in Justin Fields. I think Fields is going to Atlanta Falcons, and the Chicago Bears trade up, and they get
Okay.
Roma Dunze for their brand new quarterback of Caleb Williams.
Okay.
Besides Marvin Harrison, and I think there's even an argument. I think Roma Dunze may have the best 50-50 catchability. There are not very many balls that go past him in the deep routes of 50-50 balls. He is incredible when it comes to that. His catchability, his catch radius, absolutely nuts. I think he has incredible upside when it comes to the deep ball. And luckily, there's a man by the name of Caleb Williams who can throw it freaking deep. So I think Roma Dunze can locate it. He can go and get it. I think he has great athletic catchability, and he can be physical when he wants to be, which is a good upside. I would like to see him. We didn't get to see this a whole lot at Washington, so it's really tough to say, but I'd like to see more of what he can do in shorter routes. Can he explode out of breaks of getting the ball and, make big plays? I feel like his big plays we saw him were those deeper routes, were those posts, were those seams, and I would like to see him what he can do on a slant. Can he make guys miss in the shorter time and, make big plays, and we'll find that out, right? But yeah, that's kind of my comp on Roma Dunze. What do you think? What do you think of that little trade there?
I like it. I like it a lot, especially if the Bears are thinking more of an offensive push
Yeah.
than I have them going for. I like it a lot. I think Odunze is a great receiver. I I guess I would have the same worry about the short routes. I think it's possible we didn't see the short routes because maybe his agility is a little bit lacking.
Yeah.
But I completely agree with you. When it comes to 50-50 balls, he might be the best. He might be
Yeah.
better than Marvin Harrison. So
I know it's tough to say that, right? Because it feels like a bold take, but you watch the tape and it's incredible the way how many contested balls he had and how many he came down with. So, what do you think about
quarter
Fields in Atlanta?
I also think that makes sense for them. Obviously he, initially had that little spot at Georgia, right?
Yep. He's from Georgia. Yep.
I think I think it can make a lot of sense for him to go to Atlanta.
Yeah.
I, you know, as far as Atlanta, I don't know.
You don't know if you like it for Atlanta, but you think it makes sense.
I think it makes sense. I just don't know if I like it
Yeah.
for the people making decisions there.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's go back to your draft. You've got the Chicago Bears at number 9. What do you think they do here?
Yeah, so I think maybe they take a little bit different approach than going all offense. I think they go sure up their edge with now I'm not sure how to say his first name, but
Ooh, Latu.
Latu of UCLA.
I like it.
And
I like this guy.
I think he's the best edge prospect in the draft.
Yep.
And obviously the edge has become a position that is super valuable in the NFL.
Mhm.
And I think, they obviously need to help Montez Sweat,
Yep.
right? And I think this will create a dynamic defensive line that can get
Mhm.
after the quarterback and can also stop the run. Let's be honest, I think both of these guys are pretty good in the run game as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I see this as maybe helping their first round as helping both sides of the ball, which I think the Bears absolutely need help with, not just offense. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Are you worried about the medical issues?
I do generally worry about medical issues. Like, I'm just not a fan of injury prone people.
Yeah. Yeah.
However, I think since he is the best edge prospect in the draft, and I think the Bears need some help on the defense, I think he's someone that they have to look at taking.
Yeah.
And I'm just excited about him. I don't know.
Yeah.
It
He's
may be a
he's
little bit
fun
of
to
gut feeling.
watch. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
he's a fun player to watch. I will also get to him later, but yeah, he's one of my favorite prospects in this draft. Going to Atlanta, so they go get Justin Fields. What does Justin Fields need? I think they need a tackle, and I think at the tackle position, they're going to go get where is he? JC Latham.
Oh,
Um,
whoa.
I know, maybe a reach for some people. I think in terms of Atlanta, they want to stay south. They know he's Alabama, true, tried and true. Um, I don't think he's the best prospect in terms of tackles. I actually think I have him about ranked 4 on my list. Um, he's big guy. Anchor is really good. Great pass blocker. He has great body control. The My biggest question with him is he had like 21 penalties, which isn't great, but I do think, Alabama linemen do translate well usually. So, yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I think that could be a developmental thing too as he gets older. Just realizing how to place his body. He's such a big human being
Mhm.
that I think those holding penalties as he continues to play O line will get better.
Yeah. Yep. Yep, kind of my first, like, reach, but I think it makes sense for Atlanta to reach. So, going to the New York Jets, who you got at number 10?
I've got my second trade,
Ooh, dun, dun, dun,
and
dun.
they're gonna trade with the Saints.
The Saints. Little NOLA action. Alright, who are the Saints picking now?
And this is gonna be kind of ironic when I go back, but I think the Saints really want this guy. I think they've been just kind of
I
thinking
know.
about him. I see it, yeah. And I think it's Talise Fagua of Oregon
Ooh.
State. And
Yep,
I think they need to bolster their O line a little bit. Derek
yep.
Carr had a good season, much to my chagrin, because I always say I dislike Derek Carr. But I think this is a very good pick. I think it helps them. I think the Jets want a different O lineman than Fagua, and so they see it maybe as they can get their guy a little later. Yeah. So obviously from Oregon State, you know, just an NFL type of offense really there. And I could see
Mhm,
that being transferable to the Saints looking at the offense that Oregon State had.
mhm.
So to me, it makes sense.
I like it. I like it.
Very
Alright.
strong dude.
I'm going to also pick Puaga, but obviously I have the New York Jets picking him. There's
Jets.
been early rumors of the Jets liking this prospect. Obviously we'll
Oh,
see how that translates, but I am going with Puaga because I think he's one of the most balanced tackles. He's very athletic. He's very versatile in what he brings. I think um, he seems to be, like I said, one of the most balanced tackles of the prospects in the tackle position. He has a great anchor, but he's very good at pulling, which is huge, huge in the NFL. All the screenplays. I think he's a very, very good prospect. And what's also great about him is how many snaps he's had in college to see all of his film and see how tried and true he is. I really like this guy. I think he's going to translate well. So going back to your draft, Minnesota at number 11. Who you got?
I got Dallas Turner.
Ooh,
It's kind of the best player left, I think. I think it's
yeah.
also the fact that the Vikings need help on defense. And Bama does a good job of developing defensive guys. Obviously, edge, like I said, is one of the most valuable positions in the NFL nowadays,
Yep.
and the Vikings need help there. So I think it all makes sense. I've heard some things like, oh, the Vikings need a quarterback, or whether that's a free agent or in the draft. But
Depends on if Kirk. Yeah,
I think Kirk resigns. I don't
I do too.
see
I do
I don't
too.
see why he wouldn't.
Yep.
So I think they go defense. They needed help there last year. Dallas Turner just makes sense.
I also have Minnesota taking defense. And while would love to think that Minnesota would pick one of the better edge guys like Dallas Turner or Latu, I think they're going to go with the more raw prospect in Jared Verse. Jared Verse ran a 4.640 today, which for those of you who don't know is absolutely fucking nuts for somebody his size. He's a super athletic guy. I think he's much more raw than a Dallas Turner or a Latu, but I think the Vikings could see this guy as 4 years down the road just being an absolute beast. I think he has some weight to put on. Um, but then, it's one of those questions, if he puts on weight, do you lose his athleticism? I don't know. We'll see. I think he has the speed, he has the quickness. I think this guy is one of those guys where you could be scratching your head in a few years of why you didn't pick him. I don't think he's going to be immediately good. I think it'll take maybe 2 years or so, but he's extremely explosive off the line. He has a great motor, which is something that needs to be said because when you're playing against these offensive linemen in the NFL, if you don't have a motor, you're kind of screwed. So I think that's super, super good to see. Um, I would like to see him better in the run game. I think that's something he can improve that Dallas Turner and Latu have over him. But again, I think the athleticism here is what's going to speak to the Minnesota Vikings. Going to your pick, my Denver Broncos. Who you got Denver taking?
I don't think this is the right pick, but this
I
is who
don't
I think
either.
they're taking.
I already know who you're gonna say.
They're gonna take JJ McCarthy.
Yep.
And while I do think JJ McCarthy could be a solid NFL quarterback, right?
Yep.
I think there's upside and potential there. I think he's athletic. I think he's a little underrated with how well he throws the ball. He makes good decisions, and the dude's a winner, right?
Yeah.
All of the good things. I think they're reaching a little bit. I think they probably could have traded down. I'm not sure he would even go in the first round if they don't draft him.
Interesting.
And yeah, I think they're so desperate to find out their quarterback woes. Not that
Mhm.
Russell didn't play good, but that they just don't want Russell. That they're going to reach a little bit and they're going to take McCarthy. Is not a bad pick. I think it's just a little high, and they could get more bang for your buck later. I would have taken. I would have either traded if I really wanted JJ McCarthy, if I the Broncos, or I would have taken Nate Wiggins at corner to more sure up that defensive back situation, especially with the absence of
Kareem Jackson.
Kareem Jackson. That's what I was thinking.
Yep.
I would have taken Nate Wiggins to replace him.
Yep. Sorry, when you said DB, I was thinking corner. I was like, I don't think we lost a corner, but
No, it wasn't a
yeah.
corner, but
Yep.
I think you
Nate
could
Nate
shift some
Wiggins
people
could
around.
translate. Yeah. Okay. I agree with you. I think the Broncos are desperate right now. I think they are really desperate right now, and they really want to figure out this quarterback situation because they've been trying to figure it out for, I think, almost 9 years now. And so they see this guy as a winner. He's been to 2 college football playoffs in the last 2 years, obviously 1 this year. I think for some reason they're gonna listen to Jim Harbaugh's interview like they are the gods of or the words of God and follow his path and pick this man at the 12th pick when you could probably pick him in the 20s. They're gonna get desperate, they're gonna get scared, and I think they're gonna go pick JJ McCarthy at number 12 instead of trading down like they should. Not that I think like we are kind of ragging on JJ McCarthy a little bit. I just think we talk about floors. I think or we talk about ceilings. I don't think his ceiling is as high as some of the other prospects. I think the gap between his floor and his ceiling isn't as wide as some other guys. I think he could translate well. He has a good ability to move, which I think is a little bit underrated. I think he puts the ball where it needs to be. He's a very safe quarterback, in my opinion.
I think it could end up being good for the Broncos that they get JJ McCarthy. I just think they could have gotten him later, like you
Yep.
said, and they could have got more for it.
Yep. I agree. All right, going back to your tab, we got Las Vegas Raiders at pick number 13.
And this is where I had trouble because they need a quarterback. They need a
Yeah.
quarterback bad.
I
But
have. Yep.
I think Nate Wiggins deserves to be taken off the board, and I think they go
Interesting.
take Nate
It's your
Wiggins.
first cornerback. Interesting.
Yes. So, you know, I know people are going to look at Terry and Arnold and be like, why didn't I take him?
I'm not big on Terry and Arnold. I'll get to it, but I'll tell you why later.
Yeah. But I think Nate Wiggins to me is honestly the better corner in the draft.
Mhm.
And I also think that he just kind of fits the Raiders style. I don't I don't know what it is, but I think he fits the Raiders style and I think they're going to ride with I honestly think they're going to ride with Aiden O'Connell another year, which I'm not super happy about in my opinion. I think that they should go get a quarterback.
Yeah.
I think Bo Nix would be an interesting take here because I think I like Bo Nix. I think Bo Nix is pretty decent.
Yeah.
But I think they try and shore up some more defense, obviously with Max Crosby and shoring up that defensive back situation. Suddenly this team could have a good pass defense. And honestly, when you're in a conference with Herbert and Mahomes, or a division with Herbert and Mahomes, I think it's a good idea. So that's why I get Nate Wiggins.
Yeah. I like it. I like it a lot. I am also gonna have the Raiders picking a cornerback, but I think they're gonna go with an Alabama cornerback, and I don't think it's gonna be Terry Arnold. I think it's gonna be a little bit more about a
Whoa!
Kool-Aid. Kool-Aid
Kool-Aid.
provides a lot of versatility for the Raiders.
Yeah.
I believe he played safety for a little bit before he was a corner. He's a very aggressive corner. I think it fits Pierce's play style. Pierce likes to be aggressive, and McKinstry is exactly that. He can press man very well. A lot of people look at Terrion Arnold and say that he's a better prospect, that he defended better. Terrion Arnold was cornerback number 2 on the Alabama football team. There is a reason for that. It's because Kool-Aid McKinstry better handled wide receiver number ones. And Terrion Arnold was also not targeted, or Terrion Arnold was targeted more than Kool-Aid McKinstry. And I think there is another reason for that. I think McKinstry is a better prospect. I also think McKinstry just fits
Ooh.
Raiders scheme better. Um, you know, think people may think Nate Wiggins, Terrion Arnold are better prospects. It's up to the choice. Some people even like Cooper DeJean. I don't know. I like Kool-Aid though. I think it's a good pick.
I got a question for you about Kool-Aid. Are
Okay.
you worried about him getting beat? Like, and
You
getting
know,
like when he does get beat, like he gets beat, you know?
I like his I see what you're saying. But I will say this. I found as the year progressed, his reaction time get better. Especially in man press. I think he's better at man than a lot of cornerbacks, and that's actually hard to find. I think a lot of cornerbacks are good at zone, and so I really like his upside as a man coverage cornerback. All right, going back to your screen, we got New York Jets at number 14.
All right, I think they get the Penn State O lineman,
Fashanu.
Olu Fashanu or Fashanu.
Fashanu, or yeah,
Yeah,
he's a
Olu.
beast. He's a
Yes,
beast.
and obviously coming from Penn State, I think that just another offense that kind of fits an NFL style,
Yeah,
and he is a beast. He's arguably one of the more ready tackles, I
I
think.
agree. I
I
agree.
know you had JC Latham go. I think he might be more ready than Joe Alt. Talise Fagwa might be the only one that I might
Yeah,
have more NFL ready. But I think this is a good pick for the Jets, especially when you need to protect Aaron Rodgers, obviously. And you just need help on the offensive line, even for the run game. So I think this is the guy they wanted, which is why they were willing to trade the Saints and move down.
yeah, he's one of the best pass blockers in this draft class. His anchor is incredible, and that's why I think the Saints are going to go out and get him.
I
Fashanu.
like
We
that.
really did a flip,
Yeah, we
which is
did. We did a
funny.
flip flop.
I think, like you said, he's a beast. He's a really, really great pass blocker. some stats for you. You know, we don't talk about O-line stats. He only let up 17 pressures, 1 QB hit.
No,
That's a
Lord.
hit, not a sack. I would
That's in
like
the
to
Big
say that.
Ten, too. That's in the Big
0
Ten.
sacks in the Big Ten. All I heard about
That's
was
good.
how great that Michigan defense was. They weren't great against Fashanu. I mean, this guy is, I think he's, like you said, pro ready. You know, you look at this tackle class, and I think it's just loaded with talent. You can really go anywhere. Joe Alt, Fuaga, Fashanu. I think any of those three guys you are good with. I think it really depends on your scheme. And I think Fashanu fits well here in this slot.
I could see it. Obviously, we just flip-flopped him, so
Yep. Yep. Going to your tab, Indianapolis. Who you got them going with?
I got them shoring up the offense and
Ooh,
going wide receiver Colts, Keon Coleman.
Keon Coleman. Gotta
Yep.
scroll way down here.
This is my first
Sheesh.
kinda,
Reach a
stretch.
little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, read. Um, I think they're looking to help that offense, especially, if they lose Pittman.
Yep.
They need another wide receiver. Keon Coleman, I think, is a little underrated as well. He really was quite good at Florida State. He was the number one, while Florida State had other talent there at the receiver position as well.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I think it just makes sense to help Anthony Richardson with getting a receiver. I think they're a little more offensive focused right now with their management than they are defensive focused. And so that's why I think they reach. I think he's the next wide receiver in my list. And so I think that's why they go out and get him.
I like it. I like it. Well, I am going Indianapolis with going and getting the white boy Midwest. Hell yeah, Cooper DeJean. This is an interesting prospect. There are weirdly a lot of people who think he's the best corner prospect, and I don't know if I agree with that. I think he does have some upside. Obviously, you know he's very athletic. He has very great open tackle ability. The way he flies to the ball once, and I think he's one of the few cornerbacks who is really good at stopping the run,
Yeah,
and
yeah, I
and
knew
playing
that's
the
what you're gonna
run
say.
game. He also has kind of a ball hawk ability to him. You know, he was a returner. I think this guy's super athletic prospect, and he can fly the ball. I could honestly see this guy translating even to maybe a safety position at some point in his career. Maybe older if he
Strong safety.
yeah, I think he's one of those guys that has really great tackle ability, very fundamental, sound guy. I would like to see him at times. I think he struggles a little bit to pull the trigger on routes, like in zone. I'd like to see him get a little bit better at that. I'd also like to see him and man a little bit more. Just see how he reacts to that. But I think overall he's a solid prospect. All right, going to your Seattle Seahawks.
All right. I saved this guy. Yeah, Seahawks. No, not really, but I do like him a lot, and it's going to be the edge, Jared Verse.
Ooh,
And I think Seattle's kind of always had this defensive mentality. I think it'll be even more so with Mike McDonald as our head coach.
yeah,
And like you said, just the ceiling on this guy is like
yeah,
the speed, the athleticism. You see it, and you're like, ooh, that makes me think sacks, sacks on sacks on
yeah.
sacks, you know?
Especially at the
And
NFL level, you need speed like he has it.
yeah. And I might actually disagree a little bit with that he needs to add on weight. I think his speed and athleticism is what makes him him,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And so I think like I don't see why he needs to put on more weight. I think he's just kind of maybe a little bit more of a specialist than your average
Yeah.
edge. But the Seahawks haven't had a guy yet that's been able to put up pressures like super consistently. They've had decent average guys, I think, that have rotated through, coming from D end or the edge position. But I think this guy has the potential to be better than all of them, even right from the start. And I just think Mike McDonald, work your magic, baby.
Yeah.
Work your magic on Jared Verse.
Yep.
So I like him. I think that's where their Seahawks want to go.
I like it. All right. So for me, I also have Seattle picking an edge. I went back and forth between Dallas Turner and Latu. I think they're going to continue with their Pac 12 tried and true. I know you like this prospect a lot.
I
I
do. I do.
love this prospect. I hate when I hear medical issues, but you see the tape and it's undeniable. The way he's so versatile, the way he supports the run as well as provides a just daunting, aggressive pass rush, but smart. I think he has all the tools needed. He has the size. I think he is just relentless. I think he's going to translate extremely well into the NFL. I love watching this guy. I think he has huge upside.
I think he's underrated too.
I do too. I do too. Going back to yours, we got Jacksonville at number 17.
All right, and this is kind of where I see JC Latham going.
Ooh.
Um, I think they need help, uh, especially when they see the season that Trevor Lawrence had. Is
Yeah.
that you know what? It's I think they're going to either see what they can do to make it work out with Trevor Lawrence by surrounding him with people that will make him better,
Yep.
or they're going to pull the plug eventually. Obviously, JC Latham on his own is a tremendous talent. I see him as raw. I think he's a very big individual, still learning, and I think he could be really good down the line.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be pretty decent from the start, but the the potential is there for high ceiling. And like you said, this offensive tackle grouping is
It's stacked.
really talented. It's one of the most talented that we've seen in offensive tackle. I mean, it's something that we'll probably talk about at the end here is like the talent that's coming in from this draft is pretty immense and deep around the board.
What I was gonna say though is I think the NFL needs this big time right now. I feel like there are a lot of needs for linemen right now. And so this draft class is going to be huge for supplementing that. Going to Jacksonville, I think they picked the best guy on the board right now. I think they finally pull the trigger on Dallas Turner and supplement him, Josh Allen, with another edge rusher of Dallas Turner. I think that could
I
be a
like that.
scary, scary duo. It's a steal at 17. Some people have him as the best edge prospect. He kind of just fell in my draft. So I think Jacksonville kind of gets a steal at this late in the game with Dallas Turner. He's another guy that's super versatile. You look at the edge, I think similar to the tackle position, the top 3 guys are all very close. I think you could make an argument for any 3 of them. He's very pro ready in my opinion. Alabama, I mean, what are you laughing about over there?
I don't know. I just love Latu so much. I think the three aren't that close, in my opinion.
I
But
know, but I just
I hear
but I'm
you.
saying,
No, I
like, you
hear
can
you.
make an argument. He's very
Yeah.
versatile. Like, the way he's able to drop into coverage is something that not every edge is able to do, which I really love about him. I
A
also
steal at
think
17 for
yeah, I
sure.
mean, he's super athletic, he's super explosive, and, I think he could improve on his rush defense. I think that's the biggest thing he could improve on, but in terms of pass defense, the way he's able to drop back or get to the QB and force turnovers, I mean, what more can you want from a guy? So, I think it's a steal.
I really like it with Jacksonville too, pairing him up with
Yeah.
Josh Allen. That could be scary.
Yep. Cincinnati, who you got?
This is where I have the white boy corner coming off the board.
Woo-wee!
Cooper DeJean. And I think they're gonna pair him up with Cam Taylor, Britt, my fellow Nebraska.
Ooh, okay.
Um, they're gonna have two young studs at the corner position.
Yep.
And obviously everything that you said before, I don't want to repeat it necessarily, but great tackler, really helps in run defense. I think both him and Cam Taylor Britt both have that same little bit of ball hawk mentality, like
Yeah.
it's there, and you can tell that, like, they got ball skills.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why I think it makes sense for Cooper DeJean. Um, and I think it makes sense for the Bengals having two young studs at corner. It's been
Yeah.
a while since the team's had that, and that's dangerous.
Yep. Absolutely. For the Bengals, I think they are getting desperate to save Joe Burrow at the line, man. You gotta go with Marius Mims. Maybe a little too quick for some people, but I still think he's a great prospect. Mims, looking at his game, I think he has crazy size, right? I think he has very solid pass blocking skills. Some of the biggest questions with this guy, um, he has limited experience. I think throughout his college, he dealt with some injuries. He dealt with Georgia had stacked line. He was behind guys before he got there. So I think
Yeah.
he he has some limited experience, so sometimes that can be hard for scouts to be like, "Yep, he's good. He's great," So I think that could limit some of why he's dropping, but he's very solid all around. He has great anchor. He has great pulling ability, which is huge as well, in the NFL. I think he's a great prospect and has potential to be a very good pick. We'll see if he can translate well. Usually SEC does, but we'll see. Going to yours, LA Rams.
Yeah, so this one was tough for me. I went with Kool-Aid McKinstry,
Ooh.
and I also think there's a reason why he was the number one cornerback over Terrion Arnold. I am a little worried about with him. Obviously, like I asked you about getting beat, and when he does get beat, will it be touchdowns? That's my only question. I think it makes sense for the Rams. I personally, if I were the Rams, I would have gone with Jerjon Newton.
He's
Uh,
yeah, he's ridiculous.
and I think he would have been a good replacement for Aaron Donald eventually leaving. And then while they have them together, I think it would be crazy.
Ooh, yeah.
Um, but I that's the way I would have gone. I think they'll go with Kool-Aid McKinstry. Not a bad pick by any means. Very
No.
talented, very athletic. I think, and like you said, he kind of is a roamer, and I think they'll use him as a roamer. I don't
Mhm.
think he's going to be stuck at the corner position with the Rams. So
Yep.
yeah, yep.
I like it. All right. Going to my draft, I also have the LA Rams. I think they're gonna go pick up Terrion Arnold. I think they're gonna listen to the hype about Terrion Arnold. I don't want to say like Terrion Arnold's not gonna be good. Like that's not what I'm saying. I think he's been a little overhyped by some of the draft analysts a little bit. I think there's some considerations, as I've mentioned before, that need to be taken into effect. So I going to Terrion Arnold, I think he's a very physical guy. For a corner, he's got good size on him, which is a huge plus. You don't always get that at the corner position. I think he's good off the line and man, which is something that Alabama corners have shown that they are good in man, which is very good in the NFL, especially when you get to goal line coverages. Just allows you to do more things as a team, right? Um, I think he shows good run support as well. Maybe not as good as like a Cooper DeJean, but he still can. I mean, he had 5 picks. He's a ball hawk. He can go and get it when he wants to. So I think he's good. I think you could see penalties in the NFL. He is a little handsy at times, which I think could be rough to translate. So that's who I've got going for the LA Rams. Going back to you, Pittsburgh.
Now I've got Terry and Arnold.
Ooh.
And I think he fits the Pittsburgh mentality. I think he fits the Mike Tomlin type
Yeah, I like
defense,
that.
physical, like we
I could
talked
see it. Yeah.
about. Yeah, and I mean, we think about other defensive backs coming from Alabama and going to Pittsburgh. I think he just kind of fits a mold that Pittsburgh's looking for, and I think that defense is just kind of nasty, and that's the way Mike Tomlin's always wanted it. I think
Yeah.
Arnold. I think he's a. I think he's going to be a good player in the NFL. So I know we've talked about, like maybe a little overrated, but we don't want to knock him, right? Like,
No.
no, he's going to be pretty good. I think. I think he's a great fit at Pitt, and I think Mike Tomlin will just work well with him. I think he's going to be
Yeah.
even better in the NFL than he was in college. So
Yeah, and I also think, like, a lot of these players, right, it's all about situation that they go into too. We always talk about, like, bust, like, "Oh, why is it gonna be a bust?" Like, I think situation, what team they're going to, who develops them is a big factor into this as well, and I think Pittsburgh is a great team for Terry and Arnold to develop into, so going to Pittsburgh for me, I actually have another trade with the Houston Texans. All right.
boom.
So Houston trades up. They might get a little desperate, but Houston's excited right now. Who are they excited about, Dodge? Who are they excited about? They
I
like
don't
this
know.
man, Brian Thomas Jr. They're gonna go reach
Ooh,
for him. They're gonna go get him.
yeah,
You
that's
know
a reach
why?
for
Because they
me.
want to supplement some more weapons for the man CJ Stroud. Brian Thomas Jr., looking at his profile, I do think this is a reach, but I think they want guys who can go make plays for CJ Stroud, make him happy. Especially, we saw injuries with Tank Dell. Crazy explosive, has a lot of speed. I think, he has great cuts, but again, not a great route runner. You talked about LSU receivers not having great route running ability. This is another example of that. He has a lot of raw athleticism. He's very good deep down the field, deep threat. I think he's very good on that. What was CJ Stroud able to do this year? Be good at throwing the deep ball to Nico Collins and Tank Dell. This fits perfectly with CJ Stroud's style and how he makes big plays. I think he could improve on his route running, like I said, but I also think he could improve on those shorter routes. I talked about earlier with Roma Dunze. How is he going to translate with the slants, with the digs, those shorter routes? Same thing goes here. Not a great route runner. And honestly, when he gets the ball in his hands, I would like to see more creativity, but I think he could develop super nicely in this system with D'Amico Ryans.
I think that's a very interesting pick. I think obviously that would be looking to have a very dynamic offense.
Hmm.
So I see the reasons why there.
Yeah, I think it's a fun pick. It's definitely like
It's a fun pick. Yeah.
it's one of my more fun picks. But yeah, going back to your draft, we got Miami at 21.
I think Miami's going to see what happened to them in the playoffs and realize they need to go get a defensive lineman.
Yep.
And that's going to be Byron Murphy.
Ooh, not Jerzon Newton.
No, not Jerzon Newton. I think that they should have gotten Jerzon Newton, but I think they're going to see the hype from Byron Murphy. Obviously, I think it's already come out from this combine today, the hype that he has and just like the size and
Crazy. Yeah.
yeah. Obviously he went to Texas too, big school, Big 12, a lot of success. Um, and that's why I think the Dolphins are going to end up choosing him over Jerzon Newton is just that that Texas had a little bit more higher profile. Byron Murphy, I think, had a little bit higher profile than Jerzon Newton. Um, but I think they realize that they need to step up this D line, and especially with what happened in the playoffs. And I think Byron Murphy can help them do that. I don't think he's necessarily the best option though.
Going to mine, I have Miami going also with a D lineman, but Jerzon Newton. I think they are going to pick the right choice. I think Jerzon Newton, I really, really like this kid. Really like him. His moves as a D lineman are just fantastic. The way he's able to right off the line get hands on the offensive lineman. I swear before they even get out of their break. It's just he's incredible on how quick he is with his I don't know what you'd call that. his hand ability.
His
He
hands,
just
yeah, he's quick
yeah,
with his hands. Yeah, he's
he's
got
just
hard
quick
hands
with his
too.
hands. I mean, he's quick and he's strong.
It's powerful.
Very
Yeah,
powerful. It's a cool mixture of finesse and power, and you don't see that a lot at the D tackle position. I think this kid could be special. It's not very often we're talking about a kid from Illinois being special at the defensive lineman, but in a world where he's playing Big Ten offensive linemen who we know are good, this kid is good. I think he's going to translate very well for Miami, and he's going to be a great pick and add depth to this defense that is severely needing it.
I
So,
like it. I can, yeah.
yeah, very
I'll
similar to
talk.
yours. Yes.
I'll talk about him later when he's when I pick him.
Yep.
But
Philadelphia.
all right, Philly. Even though they don't need necessarily help at this position, I think this guy, especially with the hype he's going to get, is falling way too far. His name's Chop Robinson.
Ooh, Chop Robinson.
This guy is athletic as all get out. I think he ran a 4.4 today at the
Yeah.
combine. And when you talk about people that run 4.4 as an edge, we're talking about like Miles Garrett. You
He
know, he
ran
doesn't have,
faster. Yeah, he ran faster than Saquon, I believe. Just to put that
yeah.
in perspective. So,
Chop Robinson is an absolute stud. He's an athlete and he's got good potential to make an already good Eagles D line even
yeah.
better. And I just think that it makes sense for the Eagles because you can always use help and youth on D line. I think they also underperformed weirdly enough at
Yeah.
D line, and he's going to help even more. So I think also with the hype, he's going to have slipped too far to not go off the draft board already. And so that's why I have him going here to the Eagles.
I like it. I like it. I'm going with Philly getting some support in their secondary. Getting support in their secondary. I think Nate Wiggins is the guy that's dropped way too far, and I think they're going to go out and get him. I think that's a steal. Nate
That's a,
Wiggins, you talked about him
yeah,
earlier. I mean, I think that he's got great size, right? He's extremely fast, and he has great recovery speed, which is an underrated skill, especially in the NFL. Just to put up more stats, I picked and chose my stats, right? But 2.8 passer rating is what QB's had against his cornerback. 2.8. That is nuts. That is not 208. That is 2.8. So that's nuts. I think he's athletic. He's just fun to watch. There's very few corners that are like actually fun to watch, and he was one of those guys that really stuck out to me, who was fun to watch. He's very fundamentally sound, but also has the athleticism. Great prospect. I think at times he can give up a little bit too much space in this defensive scheme of Philadelphia. I think he'll fit well into this team.
I hear you.
Going back to your team, you still have the Houston Texans on the board. Who do you think?
All right, here with my draft board, I think they should take Jajon Newton, but they're not going to.
Ooh,
And they're going to get at some help for that O line. And they're
ooh,
going to get Troy Fontenot of UW.
ooh. Okay.
And I think they're going to choose to go O line instead of receiver like you had because I think, their run game was like
Trash. Yeah.
awful last year. And obviously, UW, another offense is kind of a pro style a little bit. A good run game. I think that Fontenot will help with that. I think that this will provide more stability to
Yeah.
that offense, if that makes sense, than
Yeah.
getting a Brian Thomas. I think Brian Thomas adds a little bit of pop, a little bit
Oh, it
of like
definitely does. It's a
a little
risky
bit of
move. It is.
yeah, yeah. And so I think you know I see that reasoning behind it. I just think D'Amico Ryans might be looking for more of a stable offense, especially when they already made the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I think Troy Fontenot accomplishes that.
I like it. I like it a lot. I could definitely see them going that direction as well. Like I said, I like the little fun pick, I like the
Yeah.
the teams making picks like that. So that's why I went there. But I totally see why you did that. Now I have Pittsburgh at 23 as they traded with Houston, if you don't remember that. So Pittsburgh's at 23 for me now. Pitt, they are famous for going out and getting guys that are from colleges from nowhere. And what do you know?
Quinn
Quinion
I
Mitchell,
like it. I like it.
um, Toledo guy. I think he will fit in well. He dominated in the MAC, which isn't, a lot of people are gonna say like, oh, that's not much, but he's a very good zone coverage guy, and I think he may have some development to do still, but the explosiveness is there, the speed is there. He's aggressive, which Mike Tomlin likes. Um, he hasn't done a ton of press coverage, which I think could be interesting to see how he does in man. But I think he's one of those guys that could be kind of a Swiss Army knife when it comes to dime packages or nickel packages, right? And um, I think this guy could be underrated because of where he came from. Any thoughts on that? You're quiet over there.
Uh, I like him. I got him going a little bit later, but I think it makes sense. I think it would be a good spot for him to go to. Obviously, I have the Steelers choosing a corner as well. So
Yep. Okay, going to Dallas for you. Who is Mike McCarthy, Jerry Jones, Dak, and the Frauds going to pick?
they're gonna go bolster up that O line like the old Cowboys, baby, and they're gonna get Jordan Morgan out of Arizona.
Whoa! I gotta go way down here.
Yeah, a little down the list. If you guys don't remember, Arizona was a good team last year. And part of that had to do with the freshman quarterback, Noah Fafita, but also part of that had to do with Jordan Morgan of Arizona and being able to shore up that offensive line. I think this is a guy that makes me think Cowboys, right? Um, I think he's big, he's strong, and I think he's also NFL ready. And I think the Cowboys want to get back to O line domination with Mike McCarthy staying,
Yep.
and so I think this is a good pick for them. The reason why I don't have them getting Jackson Powers Johnson, I've never thought Oregon was a great development of O
Ooh.
linemen,
Okay.
and I think there could be issues there.
Interesting. Well, bring on the issues because I've got Dallas Cowboys picking Jackson Powers Johnson. I think this man can move. On tape, I think he's a very solid run blocker. I think he provides good pass blocking skills as well. But I was impressed by his run blocking skills, especially as a center. I think there's a chance this guy could be very good and a steal for the Dallas Cowboys. Sure, Oregon might not be a great development school, but whether you like the Cowboys or not, they seem to have a great O line, and I think there's something to be said about that. And I think they could develop this guy very, very well. There's talks about their center leaving. I think he could be a great center for the Dallas Cowboys. Uh,
I could see it, especially at center. The one thing is that I don't see centers getting picked this early either,
Ooh,
and
true. Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, yeah.
I'm just not high on him. I'm just not high.
Going to Green Bay. Jordan
All
Love.
right, this is my last trade of the first round,
Ooh, last trade. We like trade.
and they're going to trade, I believe, right behind each other because they're both afraid that this player is going to go to the other one. Sort of. The Bucks.
Ooh, Tampa Bay. Yeah, they are right behind each other.
Yep.
We'll give them a fourth. Does that work? Yep.
Ooh, look at you. And so they're going to swap picks because the Bucks are afraid that they're going to go get a receiver when instead they want that receiver, Adonai Mitchell,
Ooh, deep threat. I like
Texans.
it.
Wow, he's rated a lot lower on that one. Uh,
Yeah, he is.
obviously, very talented receiver, ball skills galore. I think they're going to try and replace Mike Evans, who I think
Mhm.
is going to leave, and this is the way to do it. Obviously, I think they were afraid that the Packers would take him, and that's why they traded with the Packers. And the Packers, I think, have their guy that's maybe a little underrated, maybe a little bit of a fun pick, but we'll get to that next. I think Adonai Mitchell makes sense. They're trying to replace Mike Evans, and they need to have a good receiving core around Baker Mayfield. So
For my pick, I have Green Bay going D lineman Byron Murphy. I think Green Bay classic. Go with the D line, build up that D line, give him some more threats. This defense was fine last year. It was actually pretty aggressive, but I just think they just continue to supplement that fact, just get better. This guy, as you said, ran a what did you say, a 4.4? Is that what I heard?
no, that was
No,
Chop
that was a
Robinson.
different guy. That was
Yeah,
Chop Robinson, my bad. This guy, though, is extremely athletic, just a beast, and I think another guy that could do very, very well at the NFL level. So, going back to you, Green Bay, who you got?
I also think they're going to help their D line, but not Jerjon Newton's before you pick him.
Ooh, ooh.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think Jerjon Newton's going to fall a little bit. I think they're going to go Braylon Trice, edge. And like I said, edge is a very valuable position in the NFL nowadays. I think they like this kid. I think they watch him at the end of the season. They go, this guy's underrated. Especially towards the end of the season. I think he turned it up a little bit. So I think this is the guy they wanted. And obviously the Bucks offering them a trade to just swap picks because they thought they would go get Mitchell of Texas to help out Jordan Love. Also, Green Bay has a tendency not to help their quarterback in the first round.
Yeah, no
And
kidding.
I think this makes sense with Braylon Trice. I think he's I think he's a good NFL prospect, and I think he can go help this Packers D be better.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. Going to Tampa Bay, I think Tampa is going to go out. They're going to get Chop Robinson. You said that he was a steal. I agree. I think you could see him at the Tampa. Um, Continue to supplement their defense. Obviously, they have a lot of weapons. He could develop under some guys. I believe they just got rid of Shaq Barrett. If I'm not mistaken, this is a great replacement for Shaq Barrett. Young guy, a lot of athleticism. Again, what more needs to be said? I think this is a perfect fit for Chop Robinson.
Could be better than Shaq Barrett, in my opinion. But yeah,
Yeah. No, exactly. But I'm saying like great replacement. So,
yeah.
okay, going to Arizona.
All right. And this is where Jerjon Newton should go again, but he falls, and they go Tavondre Sweat.
Who?
Tavondre Sweat. There
Oh,
we
there we
go.
go.
D line, Texas. Obviously, Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy were a great combo to have at Texas. I think they helped each other, and maybe that's why they're going to slide up the draft a little bit, in my opinion. Very large human being. I
Yeah.
mean, run stopper. I think he kind of underperformed, honestly, when I watched him in the college football playoff against UW. I think both of them did, actually. But I think they've gotten so much hype. I think being from Texas and a big school with a lot of national notoriety, they're going to slide up draft boards. I think that's why Texas takes him. And again, Jerjon Newton, I think he's more talented than he's falling on my draft board. But like you
Yeah.
said, sometimes that happens with people.
Yeah. Absolutely. I am going Arizona Cardinals. I think they're going to go line. I think they're going to get Graham Barton. I think they're going to
Oh,
take a little bit of a chance here. Some guys, ACC kind of discredit that a little bit. I think this guy does have a lot of talent. They've talked about him moving into the guard position. He played tackle for Duke. I think he's just fundamentally sound. I really liked what I saw. He's not flashy by any means. He's kind of a silent punisher, if you will. I think is a great word to use. He's not one of those guys where you look at the tape and he's not making these nasty pancakes and dirt in the ground or anything like that, but he just gets it done. He has good size. I think he has the ability to be super physical, but he's just kind of does the fundamentals. I like what I see from him. I think Arizona's going to like what they see from him. And I think they're going to go get him.
I got a question for you on that one. Why not Washington's Troy Fontenot?
I think they need more help in their interior linemen than they do their tackles. I think Arizona in general just needs help. I think, but I think they like the versatility that they could use him as a tackle or they could use him as a guard. And once he gets there, they'll figure it out what he's better at.
Okay. I like that answer.
Going back to you, Buffalo.
Yeah, Buffalo, I think they need help at the corner position. This is where it makes sense to get the corner from, someplace unexpected.
Oh,
And we
one
see
second. Sorry. There we go.
Quinion Mitchell finally go off the draft board.
There you go.
I think he maybe slides down the draft board because he's from the MAC in Toledo,
I
like we
agree.
talked about. I think this place makes sense for him, though. I think he could do well in Buffalo. Already kind of used to cold weather in Toledo, and obviously Buffalo's cold weather. So, yeah, I think that this makes sense. I think it's helpful to both sides.
I agree. I like it. So for Buffalo, I see this team. Do they need some improvements? Maybe. I think there's some areas they could improve. But I honestly think they could also look to trade this pick. And this is my last trade in the draft. This one's kind of a big one. This one's fun, though. I think Buffalo is going to trade with a team by the name of Las Vegas Raiders.
Oh.
And you know who Las Vegas is going to trade up to get? Because they are also desperate for a QB. They're not going to get Bo Nix. They're going to get Michael Penix Jr.
Oh, my goodness.
They want to go hit a home run. They don't want the safe bet of Bo Nix. They want the playmaker. They go to Michael Penix pro day, and they see this man throwing bombs down the field, and they say, yep, I want that guy right there. And I think they're going to trade up, and they're going to go get him. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I can see Penix in a Raiders jerseys. There's certain players you can just see in jerseys, and he's one of them that I can just see. Do I think Penix deserves to go in the first round? I don't know, but I do think there's something about being desperate with Las Vegas, and I think they're going to get a little nervous. Not that any of these teams will get them, but I think they'll get nervous about other teams trading up, or even, you look in the second round and maybe a team like the Giants who didn't pick one, they see Penix on the board, maybe they go get Bo Nix or Michael Penix. Just some thoughts. I think they get a little scared and they trade up.
I hear you for that. Just like we've talked about before with Penix, worried about the injury history there.
Definitely.
He's probably the most injury prone prospect I've ever seen. Yeah, I mean, like, it's a little, like, obviously, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not even joking. He might be the most injury prone prospect I've ever seen. And he struggled while he was in the Big Ten. You saw it again with when they played Michigan. I think he struggled. I think he struggled when he played WSU. I don't know.
Yeah. No,
But I hear you. The
don't
Raiders could get
necessarily.
desperate.
Yeah, I think the Raiders get desperate, and I think they see Penix as the more home run, if you will. I don't know. I
Yeah.
think there's something to be said about teams with new general managers, with new head coaches that want to make big moves to make their fans excited about a new team. And I think this is a big move that gets their fans excited.
The style points.
Exactly. Detroit,
All right.
who you got?
I've got Ennis Rakenau Jr.,
Ooh, from
Missouri.
the Mizzou.
And I think this guy kind of just fits with
I agree.
Dan Campbell. Um, I think he's got that kind of grit in him. I think he's kind of
Mhm.
got that. Just, I think he'll fit with the team really well. I'm not sure. I think the Lions, as well as the Bills, like you talked about earlier, are teams that honestly could probably trade down.
Yeah.
But I see this being a good fit for them. Um, and I just like Ennis Rick now watching him. Like I can't help but like root for him. I feel like, and I
Yeah.
think I feel the same way when I watch the Lions, and that's
Yeah.
why
Something
I
fits,
don't know.
yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it a lot because I have the exact same pick. I think he fits well in their scheme. Detroit plays a lot of zone in their coverage, and he's a great zone coverage guy. We didn't see a ton of Missouri defense play man, and so there's questions there. I don't think it'll matter. I think Detroit has some good depth on the defensive side, and I think they'll be able to develop him well. I think he fits into their scheme well. I think he fits into their mentality well. This is a pick that to me makes a lot of sense. Um, you know, I think there's possibilities to maybe get better in the run game, but Dan Campbell, defensive mind, I think that could easily be improved with him. So,
I also
I think
think I
go
also
ahead.
think the Lions are not necessarily super focused on their corners being a part of the run game
I agree.
as other teams. But
Yeah, like I said, I mean, there's zone. I think they play a lot of zone coverage, and there's a reason for that. They don't need their corners to come up and stop in the run and help them in the run. So, agreed. Um, Going back to you, Baltimore, number 30, almost done, man. Hour and 40
I
minutes
know
in. This feels like a
I'm
live
so
stream.
I'm so sorry it's taking so long.
It's 32 teams. That's a long thing. So,
It is. Finally, Jerzon Newton goes off the board.
ooh,
And this will only make Baltimore's defense
more
more
ammo.
dangerous.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
I
nuts.
think I think the defense will only get better with this pick. Um, I super underrated, and I think the only reason he's not getting picked earlier is because he's from Illinois. And I think one thing we got to remember when you talked about, you don't think of D line, you don't think of Illinois. Illinois' coach Brett Bielema has been a line guy since he was at Wisconsin. And yes, that was more of an O line, but you saw a good D line come out of it too. And I think Jerjon Newton's just a product of that. Brett Bielema focuses on the trenches. And I think Baltimore with the other Harbaugh, I think this makes good sense. I think that defense is going to be filthy. Um, yeah. I think this could make them even a better contender for a Super Bowl. So
Interesting. Interesting. The Ravens were an interesting team for me just because I feel like they could go many different directions. I don't know. Some people are saying they need receiver. You could see that. I think, like there's arguments for them. I don't necessarily know if they need that. They're not necessarily like I know they tried to become a passing team in the conference championship. That didn't work out for them.
Oh
But
Lord. That's right.
Um, they are a run team. They don't necessarily need receivers in my opinion. Stick to that. That's why I think they go out. You want to talk about ammo? Braylon Trice.
No, yes, yes.
Braylon Trice. You talked about his performance towards the end of the year against great teams. This man really turned it on towards the end of the year, and I think this is a great fit for Braylon Trice and Baltimore.
I see that.
Yeah, yeah. I think it makes a lot of sense. So.
I think both of our picks make sense. The only reason why I have mine is because Jerjon Newton's fallen off the board.
Yep,
So
and Trice has fallen for me, so
yeah.
like it. Going to you, San Fran. This is
All right.
this one seems stupid to me. Like, what does San Fran need, man?
You know, these last two teams are kind of fun picks, and they've kind of been fun picks for a while now. Ever since we got to like the Bills, you could see any one of those teams trading down.
Yep.
To be fair, um, I think Mims get the Niners get Mims. Yeah.
Ooh. Yep.
And the reason why is because, like you said, kind of an athletic, moving offensive lineman. I think that fits the scheme of the Niners really well. Um, and I think they just want to go O line. Their O line's kind of aging a little bit. He's the
Yeah.
top offensive lineman left, and so yeah, that's why I think Mims is a good choice here.
I like the pick. Um, you know, especially with somebody like Trent Williams aging, like you said, I think he's a great replacement for Trent Williams. I think they're
Gets to
gonna go
learn.
with yeah, I think they're gonna go with Tyler Guyton here,
Ooh,
which
that was my other one. I had it, Mims or Guyton. That was it. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, I think
I like it.
Guyton fits well within this scheme. Yeah. Another guy that I really like what he could provide for the 49ers in terms of depth, in terms of learning. I think he could learn really well and develop into a nice tackle for San Francisco.
I completely agree. Guyton was literally I had I had like 51-49 between the two.
Yeah. Yes. All right. Your last pick, Kansas City.
All right. We know Andy Reid. We know he likes to be a little I think honestly Andy Reid's a little weird in the first round.
He is
Um
weird.
and that's why I'm going to go with Troy Franklin of Oregon.
Ooh-wee.
He's dynamic. I think he'd be some help to honestly, if there's any team that I actually don't see trading down between the last like 5 we've done, it could be the Chiefs because they need a receiver, right?
Yeah,
and I think Troy Franklin brings a little bit of a dynamic style, little speed to an offense that's been like desperate. And I think he's got better ball skills than already most of the receivers on the Chiefs because they dropped a lot of passes. And yeah, so I think Troy Franklin looked good with Bo Nix. I think he's going to look even better with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes.
definitely. Definitely. I like it. So I also have KC going with a receiver. I don't have Troy Franklin. I thought about Troy Franklin a lot. It was very, very close. I think they're going to go out and they're going to go get Adonai
Oh,
Mitchell.
yeah, okay.
Big boy, deep threat, physical specimen. Um, the reason I have Adonai Mitchell, um, Patrick Mahomes liked those Texas boys. You saw with Rashi Rice, he was a Texas boy. Adonai Mitchell, Texas guy. I think that's a factor into it. I also think they just got rid of MVS, and I think in terms of play style, they sort of read similar in that bigger guy, deeper threat.
Yeah,
Um, you know, again, I felt like I did a good job of not doing a lot of comps because I hate comps, but sometimes you have to, throw them in there
yeah.
here and there. So I do like what Mitchell can provide for this team in terms of a deep threat. Not like a super great route runner. He's not gonna be, doing your crazy routes, but I think for what they need in terms of vertical threats, this is a great guy for them to go and get. But I
Good
do
ball
like
skills
Troy
too.
Franklin. I almost picked Troy Franklin for the reason you chose. They love speed. They do love
Yeah,
speed. Troy Franklin provides a lot of it. He's shifty. I think he's a fun player, and I think he's a little underrated for that. But
Ooh.
I like it. I like
I
your pick
think
as well. So
I think the only issue I have with Mitchell going to the Chiefs, obviously I had him going earlier. Um, I don't think the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes necessarily love the traditional
okay,
big wide receiver like
yeah,
MVS. I completely understand the losing MVS.
yeah,
I think Mitchell's got better ball skills than MVS, and I
yeah.
think I think they got a similar type of style about them. So I hear what you're saying on that though.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
Absolutely. Well, we did it. Hour and 50 minutes later. It was fun, man. It like I said at the beginning, this is probably the most I've ever prepared for any podcast. And that's even with the live streams. So that's saying something. It was fun. I feel like I'm excited for this year's draft class to see how these teams are affected, where teams go. Obviously, we're not going to get it 100% correct, but it's fun going through this exercise, looking into teams' minds, being little GMs. So,
definitely. I think we can't understate the talent that's coming into this draft.
yep.
Uh, this is going to be a draft class that brings a lot of people who are going to at least stay in the NFL, right?
Mhm.
If they don't all hit their ceiling, which none of them, not all
Everyone
of
is.
them
Yeah.
will, yeah. Um, a lot of them will have the ability to stay in the NFL for a long while. So
Most definitely. Most definitely. Well, Dodge, I appreciate the time, the effort that you put into your own mock draft. It was a lot of fun as always. Um, who knows? Maybe we'll do a part two. I mean, the hard part is done. We've already made one mock draft. Maybe we'll make a 2.0 after the combine, closer to
that's
the
true.
draft. Who knows? So the hard part's done. We've done the work, but yeah. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you for having me, Hunter.
Yes, sir.